Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Econobox Garage as we continue with our bug eye build. In last week's video, I took apart, cleaned, and reassembled the wiper motor. Quite a few of you have asked for more detail on that process, so in this week's video I'm going to give you just that. I had an exciting delivery this week, and I'll show you that before I get started on the wiper motor. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy this week's video. Well, before I get going on the wiper motor again, my engine has arrived today, but I'm quite excited. It's a 1098 with the large journal cranks. It's been overbored by 30 thousandths. ARP studs. The head is the 12G295 with 1275 exhaust valves in it. And HS2 carbs are on their way. Those are currently being rebuilt. So new water pump, new oil pump. I do have the kit to convert it to a spin-on oil filter, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do with the distributor a little bit later on. And also today, the same friend that built the engine for me found a set of disc brakes that's almost complete and in really good shape. I don't have to rebuild any of the steering part. I will be putting new bushings on both A-arms and for the trunnions where it mounts up to the arm of the shocks. So I'm very happy with that, and also you'll notice it has the holes for a sway bar, so I'll be looking for one of those in the near future as well. So a very good day today without actually doing any work. It's almost like Christmas in March. So in the previous video I gave you a rough idea on how to take apart and put together the windshield wiper motor. And I didn't really go into a lot of detail on how to do that. So what I've decided to do for this video is to take the windshield wiper motor back out of the car, which is only the 3 nuts that go on these studs here, and go through in a little more detail on how to dismantle it and how to put it back together. So the first thing I'm going to do is just slide these tubes off the drive cable. This one isn't actually attached, but the first one coming off the motor, there's a nut here, much like attaching a brake line or a fuel line. So I'll just loosen that off, and then I can slide both of those off there. Once I've got those pipes off, I'll switch cameras and give you an idea of how I took it apart and also how I put it back together. So as I just mentioned, the first thing to do is slide these tubes off. I've already loosened this nut here, and that will just slide right off as well. Alright, so now that I have the pipes off the drive cable, I'm going to pull these 2 screws off here, because if I don't pull those off, I won't be able to pull that end plate off. So let's get that done. And I really like having one of these little magnetic trays at hand, especially when dealing with small screws like that one there. So that one's that out of the way. And don't need to loosen this one. That's one of the electrical connections for the ground for the wiper motor. I'm going to remove these 2 screws now, and that will allow me to remove the end plate. And then don't lose the little star washer on there. So, oop, just dropped it on the floor. There we go. Okay, so now those 2 screws are out. I can pop this off. The narrow slot here where these electrical tabs come through, and if you leave the screws in there, it won't come out. So that's the plate off. Now next thing I'm going to do is remove the brush assembly. And there's a little spring. I'll turn it a little bit here. So there's a little spring here that you can see, and that just holds these two pieces together. So I'm just going to pop that off, being careful not to lose the actual brushes themselves, which are these bits right here and here. So I'll just put those off to the side. So there you can see this is the armature, and then there's the electromagnetic coil, and this wire here goes through the case and out through here and onto this part here, but I'll get to that in a minute. So before I can take this case off, I need to remove these two screws here. And now that will just slide right off. So next I'm going to remove these these four screws here to take off the cover for the actual drive mechanism. So there's the fourth one. So I'm just going to pop this off, and I have to be careful in this area here because that wire is very close to the cover plate. So it's just a matter of kind of be careful. I'm popping that over, and then what I'll do is I'll just tip this over like that. So I should be able to give you a rough idea on how the motor works here. So the armature will spin, and you can see the worm gear just down in here. It turns the drive gear, and you can see that this arm is attached to an off-center lug. Just keep turning that. You can see it's pulling on the cable. And when we get around going the other way, it starts to push the cable. So there you can see it's starting to push out. So basically essentially what's happening is this cable is being moved back and forth, and the ribs on the cable here run into little gearboxes for the wipers. Now to remove this part of the assembly, or actually what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to spin this the armature the opposite direction. See, it's starting to come out there, and that will pull right out, and there we have the armature. Put that up there. Now to remove this part of the assembly, again being careful with the wire, there's on the bottom there's a C-clip and a little washer, so I'm going to pop that off, and then we can slide this part out here. Is that C-clip off? I'll just put that in my little tray. And there's a washer. I'll pop that out of there. And now that will free up this assembly here. I'll pop that out. Oh, and you can see the cable assembly just popped out. See the hole in the end of it, and we'll just put that aside. And again, you got to be careful with this wire here because it's a pretty tight fit, but it will come out. And there you have it. So this pin here engages the hole in the end of the cable, and that's what pulls it back and pushes it forward. So that's how you take apart the windshield wiper motor on a Bug-Eye Sprite. And to put it back together is essentially the reverse. So there we have the wiper motor all back together and ready to be bench tested. But that's all the time I have for this week, so come back for the next episode where we'll get this hooked up to a battery and see if it's working. If you've enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the little bell icon so you'll get notified when the next video comes out. My name is Ian. This is the Econobox Garage. We'll see you next time.